now that we were at the World Championship, the Asia-Pacific region has been the one that's truly signed.
That's right. So Europe is down, but they're not out because they have a hero from Russia. Let's first meet our player, ShtanUdachi.
Derbo has no effect on his blistering play, the winter champion from Russia.
His opponent from Canada, looking to make another World Championship run. Please welcome Purple.
One of the most expressive players in the tournament. Some call him the mad scientist of Hearthstone.
Decider match number 3. ShtanUdachi versus Purple.
Purple, really good player.
I haven't seen Shtan play in a long time.
He won really big tournaments before, so his experience in the game.
That's just a very standard match that goes, like, on paper, like 51.5% in my favor.
He have some advantage compared with some players probably who nervous about it, but compared with me, don't think so.
I don't know where he's at, but like he impressed me back then, so he's like definitely got a brain for Hearthstone, and he's probably still pretty damn good.
ShtanUdachi versus Purple. Ready, set, go!
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Hearthstone World Championship. It's been a blistering 2 matches so far, but we have another decider match at our hands. It's ShtanUdachi versus Purple. I'm TJ, joined by the Admiral. That's admirable. What are you thinking of this one?
I'm liking this match. ShtanUdachi has always been one of my favorite players to watch, and it largely is because of the pace of his play. He often will work seemingly on his intuition, and that's largely because of just how many games of Hearthstone he's played. You know, 42,000 wins over his account, and that's split between Arena and Constructed. That's a ton of Hearthstone.
And that was a week ago. So who knows what it is now?
At least 46.
Yeah, at least 46. Guy jams 4,000 games a week. But taking a look at the lineups, Control Warlock banned away from Purple, and Highlander Priest banned away from ShtanUdachi. Other than that, lineups are pretty similar. The big difference being Aggro Druid versus Jade Druid, which has been a difference that we're seeing a lot. And we're actually going to start off with that very matchup.
Yeah, and this is really the split between the players who have brought the more standard-looking lineup is whether or not they're playing Aggro Druid or Jade Druid. ShtanUdachi has favored the Jade Druid, but this has been the deck that I've been worried about getting wins across a lot of lineups. Now, against Purple's Aggro Druid, he does have a little bit more benefit. If you look at the Jade Druids, they're also split on their decisions between running Jade Spirit to try to ramp up and have more heavy endgame pressure, or with running Oaken Summons to get Ironwood Golem from your deck, gain that 6 armor and get a 3/6 taunt in the same turn. Shtan is choosing the defensive option of the Oaken Summons and the Ironwood Golem, so he does have a little bit more of a better matchup because he's got that defensive measure.
Yeah, and Aggro Druid has a much tougher time overcoming Spreading Plague than some of the other more aggressive lists out there. Notably, say, Tempo Rogue and Murloc Paladin, which can get over Spreading Plague and still be able to win. A lot of times, the Aggro Druid doesn't have that benefit unless they're building up a board and continuously buffing it. And that's sort of, you know, the goal. You don't want to go super wide on the board unless you have a hard read that your opponent doesn't have the Spreading Plague. And you want to just keep protecting your board and buffing it up with Mark of the Lotus and Power of the Wild.
Yeah, just a glimpse of that somewhat defensive package. Also, Arcane Tyrant in there just to help on those turns where you're having to invest in Nourish to get that mana or for the Spreading Plague draw, things like that. And Purple going to go with the 1/2 Poisonous here. And that is a big nod to Oaken Summons. It's really difficult for Shtan to wipe that out unless he's got a mini to go with it. And Purple also going to play Snow Flipper Penguin. This was a card he opted for over Enchanted Raven because the main goal of this deck is, as you said, to go wide on the board and buff. And having to invest 1 mana versus having the small drop is actually quite impactful when it comes to the amount of damage you could put out. So like right here, for instance, is Purple going to get more than 8 damage out of Savage Roar? I think oftentimes not. And so that Snow Flipper Penguin coming down net him 3 damage in this instance.
Yeah, it did. Ends up being a good inclusion in the deck and a good spot by Purple, understanding that as the game goes on, it gets harder and harder to find, you know, true value from Savage Roar. And true value meaning damage to the face.
Yeah. In this particular game too, Shtan is actually torn on killing minions that are on board right now. And that Savage Roar is kind of a dangerous statement from Purple, where Shtan looks at this and goes, I don't really want to kill a bunch of small minions because I have Spreading Plague coming up, but I also don't want to just leave them there and maybe meet a second Savage Roar. And so this branching pass looking like he's just going to gain armor, try to negate all that damage that Purple's been outputting, and look for that Spreading Plague later on.
And I wonder if ShtanUdachi has a read on the card in the far left, wow, as second Savage Roar is drawn, because Purple actually kept that Corridor Creeper in the opening hand, and he hasn't played it. And a lot of times you really only keep early drops, Corridor Creepers and buffs. And if he hasn't played an early drop, he hasn't played a buff, it's likely a big minion, whether it's Corridor Creeper or Bittertide Hydra. So that's why I like not cleaning up the board there with like a Wrath, Hero Power type thing, and going with the branching paths and just gaining the armor, because you're just making Corridor Creeper cheaper by doing that, and you get to have that spot removed for later on in the game.
Yeah, that really would be a solid read for ShtanUdachi to make as well. I mean, those are really the cards that Purple would be keeping and haven't been played by this point, are Corridor Creeper and Bittertide Hydra. Living Mana doesn't quite have the same impact in this matchup because you want to avoid Spreading Plague. And so Purple very much is going to move towards Bittertide Hydra, I think, in this instance, and look to have that maybe crash into ShtanUdachi for 8 or 16 points of damage over a couple turns.
That's the goal of the card.
And that will just make that Bittertide Hydra a lot bigger. This is actually somewhat dangerous for Shtan at this point now, because he's going into Eye of Blackpaw to try to fight this off. And that's actually not enough pressure to kill the Bittertide Hydra immediately if Purple picks up anything to defend this.
And so just a Hero Power would be enough to defend it. He could Hero Power and then drop the Corridor Creeper.
Oh, my. And that actually will bring it into range where only Swipe or an upgraded Jasper Spellstone would kill it. And so Shtan might be seeing himself Spreading Plague just to buy one turn of attacks. The question here, though, is if Purple plays Mark of Yashraj, it means he's not getting the Corridor Creeper down. So this is the turn for him to really measure this out and see, do I need this damage right now, or would I rather have an extra 5/5?
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to go with the 5/5. This also makes sure that he'll have Mark of Yashraj value next turn, because if you thought he couldn't kill the Bittertide Hydra alone, well, then a Corridor Creeper just makes it that much tougher.
This also makes him able to push through Spreading Plague just for the one token. And ShtanUdachi right now with the Eye of Blackpaw and the Death Rattle, he can't make 2 of those, and the Oaken Summons might have been the card that can get him out of this situation. That is actually a huge draw for ShtanUdachi right now, and it's quite important he's also picked up the Fandral because he's guaranteed that Golem in that spot.
Purple, not something that he wanted to see. He was hoping that this was going to get, that this Bittertide Hydra was going to get him there. ShtanUdachi, I think, probably wise to hold on to this coin. Well, I don't know. It's tough to say. If he plays Fandral now, he has more power to contest. But if he holds on to the coin, it means he gets Ultimate Infestation out further. But what this play from ShtanUdachi tells me is that he realizes that he's probably not going to get to Ultimate Infestation. And the biggest thing for him is making sure that he can kill this Bittertide Hydra and having more power on the board.
Oh, no. Purple Living Mana is not a card that's going to get him out of this situation. This is actually a huge benefit to Shtan, who draws a second Spreading Plague. Bittertide Hydra is going to rip, and Purple is in a lot of trouble now.
I mean, he's going to need almost exactly a buff off the top to even have a chance.
Now, he does have Mark of the Lotus and Power of the Wild still in the deck. He's going to have to draw both of those. So those are the cards that can get him out of this situation. So it's about a 1 in 5 right now. And I'm thinking with second Spreading Plague and Ultimate Infestation, Purple might need back-to-back, or even back-to-back buffs. That is not the situation you wanted to see. I mean, Purple, I think, took the right risk in this game. I don't think he really had much of an option other than to go for this Living Mana. Just his other reload is dead on board.
Yeah. That's sort of what these aggro decks have to do, and I think especially aggro Druid because of how
pressuring now, too.
Yeah, I mean, one hero power, I suppose, but...
Oh, I mean, it makes no difference if that's Enchanted Raven or not.
is looking grim. And a
more
JV
power.
Mammoth.
And I think that's game. Like I don't think there's a way for Purple to actually push through and wipe out the power. I mean, Shtan doesn't have to worry about Savage Roar in this instance ever. The board's already spread so thin that it's actually a difficult option for him anyway. It looks like he will pay attention to the board because he knows that if this game drags on, he's got it in the bag. So at this point, it was 2 roads to Eldorado. Shtan having that Oaken summons right on time and then also drawing the second spreading play gives him so much insurance. Game 1, Shtan. That is the important deck in Shtan's lineup, I think, to find a win as well.
Definitely for him, and you know, even at the end, his Jades were quite large, so Shtan able to find the time to build up a big enough board and overcome the threat of that Bittertide Hydra, even at a second spreading plague for insurance at the end of the day. And that's the Aggro Druid, very risky deck. It's sort of all or nothing, and in that one it was nothing for Purple. We're gonna find out if Purple can come back and take a win in this series right after this.
What's up, guys? I'm Rosti, former Rank 1 legend, HCT finalist, and top coach for Gamer Sensei. Welcome to the Road to Worlds video series, brought to you by Blizzard Entertainment and Gamer Sensei. In this video, we're going to take a look at the rise of ShtanUdachi and one of the sickest plays that earned him the title of Winter Champion. It's Game 3 of Turn 5 of the Winter Championship quarterfinals. We've got Shtan on the Reno Lock up against Lovely Chook's Miracle Rogue. It's Turn 5, and Shtan is in a pretty bad spot. Most players here, they would just Soulfire the Tomb Pillager, and that seems really good because of how perfectly it lines up. But instead, Shtan's gonna decide to drop the Doomsayer and Earthen Ring Farseer this turn. We're so used to making these autopilot plays like Soulfiring Tomb Pillager when we see it, that when a rare situation comes up where it's actually wrong to do that, we miss it. But not Shtan. By playing Doomsayer, Shtan forces Lovely Chook to have an out to it. And if Lovely Chook can kill the Doomsayer, it's pretty unlikely that he can kill the Farseer in the same turn too. So, worst case, Shtan can just trade his Farseer into the Tomb Pillager and then Mortal Coil it. And this line of play lets him save Soulfire for later. All the way on turn 9, Shtan finally finds the perfect turn to use his Soulfire.
Welcome back to the Hearthstone World Championship! Join us by the fire, along with our worthy hosts, TJ and Admirable,
Thanks very much, Innkeeper, and welcome back, everybody, to the Hearthstone World Championship. ShtanUdachi is currently up 1-0 in this decider match against Purple. And ShtanUdachi, he ran over the field in the Bahamas thanks to the unique decks that he built himself, something that he takes great pride in.
Мне абсолютно не интересно играть чем-то.
Deck building in Hearthstone is an art.
Нет мотивации.
Building something new, something I've created, and making it work in competitive play is really cool.
ShtanUdachi's brought quite an interesting lineup with a few tech choices.
Разница просто.
There's pleasure in playing Hearthstone with pre-constructed decks and winning, but creating your own deck and winning is double the pleasure. Deck building is an art.
In 2016, I played a lot and I get nothing. The next year, I qualified in the first championship and I won it.
4-0 for ShtanUdachi and going to the World Championships.
It was awesome after you get nothing. So hard work does pay off, but there is still work to do.
And ShtanUdachi, he showed a little bit of a disappointment in his interviews early on in the week, where we talked to him about his relatively standard lineup that he brought to this field. But so far, he's been piloting those decks well. So he's showing proficiency in not only these decks that he's building himself, but also the decks that we've come to know as standard in the current meta.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really questions ShtanUdachi's ability to play the game. And to build decks, I don't think there's really much of a question either. But you really said it in his interview. He said he experimented with so many different decks, and he just couldn't find the one that worked. He's always tended to favor combo-style decks. And right now, that was just a hard thing to find in this metagame. There are so many powerful decks that are out there that you have to be a bit more honest with the choices that are in your deck sometimes.
That's right, and you know, talking about these sort of standard lineups, ShtanUdachi going to be playing Cube Warlock in this matchup, and this is the more traditional Cube Warlock with Doom Guards and Mountain Giant, so a little bit greedier. Not the control-ish Warlock that a lot of players have been bringing to this field, expecting a lot of aggressive decks with just Void Lord, more removal package, more early game, things like that.
Yeah, this deck tends to perform a little bit better versus Priest with the big threats that are in here. And I think that's really one of the big ones you look at for ShtanUdachi's deck. But it is still quite good versus aggressive decks. You still have Defiles, Mortal Coils, Spellstones. You can pack the punch, it's just a little bit less consistent. That's why Purple actually chose to not ban this particular deck in the lineup, where against a more controlling deck, I think he clearly would have.
Yeah, and right off the bat, Purple showing what his game plan is in this matchup, going double coin into SI7 agent to the face.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive play, but that's the way he has to play the matchup. Shtan, understanding that, he answers back right away. He doesn't want to wait for Hellfire and take that damage. He'd rather just use his resources. Purple's reload now is a Tar Creeper. And I can tell you that Tar Creeper is quite a good card, but it's a lot worse when you don't have Cold Blood in your deck. Purple has not included Cold Blood, and so this Tar Creeper, it's poking away for one a turn. And with 2 Saronite Chain Gangs, it's looking like his aggressive game plan is going to get stuffed early on.
ShtanUdachi, though, seeing those turns early on, he might think that Purple has an aggressive hand because of how aggressively he played, and that's why I believe he thought about that tap for a long time. He does have a lot of tools that he needs to just get there. He's got Possessed Lackey plus Dark Pact to bring out a Demon. He's got Carnivorous Cube. But he realizes also that he also may at some point want to get Mountain Giant on the board. He also will need resources as the game goes on, so decides to tap anyway.
And that's quite a bad draw for ShtanUdachi to pick up that Void Lord. Now, wow, I'm talking about bad draws. Now you're looking at 2 Doom Guards and 1 Void Lord in the deck. And one of the Doom Guards gets pulled, so Bile Spine right there to answer. And Purple, he's got some damage cranking, but yeah, Shtan's still got some ways to answer this.
Yeah, we've seen this time and time again over the course of the weekend. The players with the Doom Guard version of Cube Warlock getting punished for bringing a greedier list in situations where they need a Void Lord, not getting it.
Look at that clear right there. Purple left with Saronite Chain Gang and Patches in the hand. He's going to need some big draws. And another Defile for ShtanUdachi as well. Even though, even though Shtan's hand is quite weak in this situation with the 2 cubes and the Mountain Giant, he may have passed the point where Purple's going to be able to out-pressure him. As soon as he's able to get
second possessed lackey. This one's up 50-50 for Voidlord or Doomguard.
Shtan's draws are just on fire right now. And I think the amount of time he's bought is going to be too much. I think we're looking at a 2-0 Shtan lead.
Purple doesn't have a choice at all but to try and just keep going base, hope that the damage gets there, and hope that maybe Leroy is in his next couple draws, because that's going to be his only hope with Shadow Step in hand of being able to close this game out.
Oh my. See Shtan hesitate for just a moment. And no life tap. He knows he's got the goods.
And with Voidlord coming out next turn.
Just look at look on Purple's face. What happened? Oh, Shtan blew up everything. That's what happened. And we've seen Purple, the respect that he's shown when players take that sizable advantage. This Voidlord, that's enough for Purple to tap out.
A quick game, which has sort of been the trend of today. Quick games, quick matches as well. And ShtanUdachi takes a 2-0 lead. And right now it just seems like Purple is just not getting there with any of these faster decks against ShtanUdachi's slower decks.
It's really tough, but the other deck that Purple's built to punish is the remaining deck for ShtanUdachi. It's his Tempo Rogue.
And Purple, this is not Purple's first rodeo when it comes to the World Championship. The player from Canada definitely has experience on his side.
I'm over the hill. I'm 26. I'm washed. Going into it, 2015 World Championships, I was uncontestably the best player in the world, basically. And I sucked at the game. I brought some stupid decks and I lost.
Oh, goodness! Oh, man. That is it. Ping Ping Ho is going to win 3-1 over the America's champion, Purple.
I kind of took the last year and a half off competitive hours and I didn't try too hard. I started working at it again like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I'm very different as a Hearthstone player than I used to be. I used to focus too much on little details, and now I don't overthink too many things, just hit people in the face.
10-0 for Purple, didn't drop a match. Absolutely amazing play from Purple.
My Hearthstone career won't be complete until I get my first World Championship. I'll probably retire as soon as I get it. Thinking this might be my last go at the World Championship.
There's Purple feeling the pressure right now. 1 game away from elimination here at his second World Championship. And if momentum is anything to look at, he's in trouble.
He's not been a player that's been afraid to show his emotion either. We saw right before we went into the piece him shake his head like, not like this. This is not how I want it to end. Yeah. And this is an important matchup for him. I'd say this is probably the hardest one left in his lineup for him to win. But he's got to go 3-0 from this point. It's not impossible, but it's an uphill battle.
Well, Shadowy Branduin in the opening hand is a boon, but
oh my.
Prince Keleseth also. This one's going to be tough. And we asked Purple earlier this week if there's anything more important to him in Hearthstone than winning the World Championship. And his answer was getting second place twice. Because there's been a bunch of people that have won World Championships, but there's never been someone who's got second place twice, and that's what his eyes were on.
Well, Spear Lashing right away, too. This play is designed specifically to fight against South Sea Captain. If that card comes out, Purple's just going to take so much damage that he feels with this hand he'd rather alleviate that pressure. I don't disagree with that. I think this is a peculiar spot where ShtanUdachi's hand could just be extremely strong, and if he ends up not Spirit Lashing there, the game could easily snowball out of control.
ShtanUdachi is going up the curve. Point Elven Minstrel, which will draw 2 buffed minions from his deck. One of those being a Corridor Creeper, which automatically gets cheaper because of the minion trade.
Yeah.
He does have the removal, though. He's got Dragonfire Potion into Psychic Scream, into Shadowy Branduin. So if this game goes long, he does have some gain, but he still needs a lot of help.
And a big one here is that ShtanUdachi has Cobalt Scalebane in his deck. You see it in his hand, the 5th card from the left. That card survives Dragonfire Potion. And that's a big deal for, against Purple right now, because that's just added pressure. And that's what this deck really is all about. Every step of the way, you want to maximize your pressure without giving up too much. So when he's able to have that additional threat stick to board, it means the world to Shtan.
Shadow Death is an answer, though. And when you have this type of hand, like Purple does, with all of that removal for big stuff, Cobalt Scalebane is just about the best target for Shadow Death because it's one of the things that removal, you know, is the hardest to find.
Purple's fighting really hard, but the problem is this Acolyte is likely to not draw. Shtan has Corridor Creeper and the Vilespine Slayer, so the pressure immediately applied back. Now we're approaching the territory where Dragonfire Potion isn't going to be strong because ShtanUdachi had Prince Keliseth. It's the second benefit of his deck against what Purple's brought to the table. But that's still a big hand for Purple right now. He's got Scream, he's got Velen, and he's got Anduin.
But Shattered Pain really has, what, a couple targets left in the deck now that everything's buffed? Fireflies, South Sea Deckhands, and Swashburglars. That's it.
Those are prime Shadow Pain targets.
Yeah. And he's got to just leave this Corridor Creeper up and hope that, I suppose, ShtanUdachi doesn't load up with things that die to Shattered Branduin. But ShtanUdachi saw that Purple kept a single card.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
So he's playing this very intelligently by not making himself vulnerable to the Shadow Reaper Anduin, considering that it's very likely that the one card that Purple kept is exactly Anduin.
And this might be the Anduin turn for Purple. He's going to move in with this Anduin, and his intention here was to get ShtanUdachi to play as much as he could. And now that Shtan has seen Anduin, it's so much more likely that he Bone Mares in this turn. Purple wants to scream afterwards and hope that the clear skies from there is enough to buy him back into this game.
But he is at quite low health, and ShtanUdachi still has a ton of time because there hasn't been a Raza. He's at 30 health still. Purple doesn't have much healing because he's already used Spirit Lash.
Losing that one card draw from the Acolyte was such a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Scalebane, Creeper, hit ya. And where's the answer now?
He might just be dead.
I'm thinking Kazakus maybe.
And even Kazakus, without Raza, this hero power just is not getting there. And he's got to use all of these spells just to clear up one of these minions. And with Power Word Tentacles and SI7 Agent,
I think that's it.
That's it.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 exactly.
Even, yeah,
TJ,
that's going to be 10 exactly.
Don't blink this weekend. You're going to miss it. ShtanUdachi with the damage in hand. He's going to send Purple home with a 3-0 score and move on to the top 8.
3 matches so far today. 3 sweeps so far today in these decider matches. And a ShtanUdachi 3-0 is just about one of the fastest 3-0s you'll ever see on a big stage like this one.
Your decks could be built to punish a lineup, but there's still percentages in the mix. ShtanUdachi, I think that's great play in here. I think that his Druid deck being built with the Oaken Summons package shows that he was concerned about aggressive lineups. Those little edges can be the big difference when it comes down to it. ShtanUdachi looking good in this tournament.
And for a second time in his career, Purple walks off of a World Championship stage. Disappointed. But there you go, ShtanUdachi moving on to the quarterfinals in the top 8. We'll see him play later on today. But for now, let's head on to the stage with Frodan, who's waiting with some words with our winner.
Shtan has been fast series all day, and you play very fast. But that's something you're comfortable with, right? You like to play very quickly.
Yes, I always play very quickly.
Well, you know, one thing I wanted to ask you about is, you know, going up against Purple, did you expect it to be 3-0 even though you played very fast?
No, I didn't expect it. I think it was like just 50-50 around. He was pretty back luck, I think. It was patches on hand, and some good luck for me.
Yeah, Keliseth's a pretty good draw, it turns out. You know, I wanted to also ask you about your next opponent. You're going to play Surrender in the top 8, and people are pecking him and you as 2 of the best players here. So, you know, is that something that you would like because you want to take out a strong player? What are your thoughts on going up against him?
A lot of strong players here, right? So Surrender lineups, it's the same like purple lineup, so it can be 3-0 too, but Surrender didn't misplay it yet and with mid-tournament, so we'll see. But it's not the worst opening for me. Sintalol was already.
Gotcha. I mean, I was just told that Surrender has a 14-match winning streak. That means he hasn't lost in HCT since back in the playoffs in December. So, what do you think it will take to defeat him specifically? Do you think play is going to be enough? Are you going to try to change anything up?
I don't think I can change something. So, I can only play good and just hope.
Okay, and my last question is that people are talking about Europe and their struggles, but I think you and Sinto are through to the top 8, so there's still a pretty good chance. Do you feel personally responsible to do well so that Europe can have a good result this World Championship?
We will try with Sinto, so probably some of us will champion.
Ooh, he's still picking a European champion. A crowd, give him a round of applause for ShtanUdachi. He's going to the top 8.